Hey YouTube, welcome back. Today I'm doing my favorite studio albums of all time. A couple of things to note here. I grew up in the 80s and I went to college in the 90s, so this list will reflect that. So these are all studio albums, no live albums or greatest hits. And please leave your list in the comment section. So the first album here is AC/DC's 1980 album, Back in Black. I think this is one of the greatest rock albums of all time. Okay, next album, Bon Jovi's 1986 Slippery When Wet. Obviously it's a classic album, and it contains one of my favorite ballads of all time, Never Say Goodbye. Next, Motley Crue's 1989 album, Dr. Feelgood. Produced by Bob Rock, I think this is one of the most underrated rock albums of all time, and I think Mick Mars doesn't get enough credit for how great his guitar work is on this album. Okay, next up from 1992, Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. I first heard this album in college, and I was instantly obsessed with it. Dime's playing is incredible, and in my opinion, one of the best metal albums of all time. Next up, Metallica's 1991 album, The Black Album. This album got me into Metallica. I actually ended up buying their entire back catalog afterwards, although I have to admit I don't own any of their albums after this. I probably listened to this album more than anything else over the next 5 years. Okay, so the next few entries here are going to be double albums. And the reason is that it's really hard for me to pick between these two albums, and I kind of look at them as companion albums. So here I have Def Leppard's 1983 Pyromania and 1987's Hysteria. Pyromania was actually the first album I ever owned. My parents got it for me on tape. Hysteria came out when I was in high school, so it's really nostalgic for me. I love it. Okay, another set of albums here, Whitesnake's 1987 Whitesnake and 1989's Slip of the Tongue. The 1987 album was my favorite album in high school. I listened to it all the time. As far as Slip of the Tongue, I think it's a great, underrated album. A lot of Whitesnake fans don't like it because they don't think that Steve Vai's guitar playing fits in, and I understand where they're coming from, but I think he did a really great job. Okay, the last set of albums here, Alice in Chains' 1990 Facelift and 1992's Dirt. So I actually heard Dirt first because it came out when I was in college, so I went back and purchased Facelift afterwards. I never really got into the grunge music scene at the time, but I liked Alice in Chains because they were more metal sounding than the other bands. I do like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, but Alice in Chains is my favorite from that time period. I probably listened to Dirt more than any other album for years to come. So next up here I have 1978's Van Halen 1, but as you can see, I do have an asterisk. Although I have my favorites, Van Halen is one of those rare bands for me where the entire catalog is bigger than the sum of its parts. Led Zeppelin would be another example of this type of band for me. The final album here is Guns N' Roses' 1987 classic album, Appetite for Destruction. I'd argue one of the best hard rock albums of all time. This came out the same year as Whitesnake and Hysteria, and along with Slippery When Wet, I probably listened to those 4 albums almost exclusively for 4 years. Okay guys, so that's it for my list of my favorite albums. Thanks for watching. Please leave your list in my comment section, and I'll see you soon. Take care.